Infinite Frontier sees reality change again thanks to Wonder Woman, who has ascended to a godlike being within the fabric of reality, witnessing the birth of an infinite frontier. A voice asks how she's adjusting to her new, grander perspective, but it's just the beginning of everything as Wonder Woman is confronted by the Quintessence, who know there are now no boundaries between the 52 universes, which are now like a great omniverse, and a bright day of peace and infinite possibilities is upon them all because of Wonder Woman's actions against the Batman Who Laughs and Perpetua. Diana wonders why she is there since she was meant to ascend, but saw the future instead. Spectre says that she saw possible futures and now it falls on humanity to decide its fate, so thanks to her newfound role, judged by the hands of the Source themselves, he asks her to join the Quintessence, and she is asked to assist them in chronicling the new order of things. Diana knows that this sounds a little too good to be true, especially after knowing of the great cost restarting the multiverse would bring. The beings know of no cost or lurking threat, but they don't offer her place with them lightly. Diana refuses to leave her friends and family behind until she knows that they are safe and wants to know the truth. The Quintessence insist that there is no great cost, but they will send Spectre with her to guide her through these times. Spectre says that they will move like ghosts and witness moments as they search for the cost that haunts Wonder Woman. The heroes head into the multiverse as on Earth, Superman responds to an incident in Egypt, where he finds the villain who attacked the people frozen in stone. The people say that the being who helped them was named Shazam, making Superman think that maybe Shazam was there. The people say it wasn't him, and when attacked by the fire god, a being with a lightning bolt on his chest came to help. Superman still thinks that sounds like Shazam as the people show him pictures of Black Adam fighting the fire god. The people say that the being is strong and quiet and helps and then leaves, much like Superman. Flash arrives, surprised that Superman beat him there and saved the day already, but Superman says that this was Black Adam's doing. Flash thinks that this was some villain team up gone wrong, but Clark wonders if maybe Adam wants to turn over a new leaf and become a hero. Barry knows that he thinks that about everyone, and Superman reminds him that he hopes that about everyone. Diana views Clark's optimism from above, knowing of course he sees the potential for good even in his enemies, but Spectre knows that Batman doesn't share that optimism. In Gotham City, Arkham Asylum guard Mahoney does his rounds in the madhouse as a voice says that a city is broken and the people are broken, and their most critical goal now is to show them the truth of what they really are. Mahoney goes in to check on Bane, finding the cell filled with a green gas as well as a dead guard. He thinks Bane did it, moving in to secure the inmate, but upon removing his mask, he finds Bane has been murdered. Mahoney calls in a code green, meaning Joker has attacked the asylum, but most of the asylum's security is already dead thanks to the gas. Elsewhere, the Batgirls fight through some goons as Oracle coordinates with them. Barbara talks with Huntress as she signals the Batgirls, asks how she feels about being Oracle again. Barbara says that it feels good and there was a part of her that felt like she couldn't be everywhere she wanted to be in the costume, but now in the chair she can. She says she hasn't hung up her costume for good though, but it will be more judicious with her use of it since she wants to give her spinal implant a rest. Suddenly the women hear the code green from the asylum coming through, worrying Barbara as elsewhere, Tim plays chess with his father, telling him he didn't come to the city for a lecture. Lucius apologizes to his son, but Tim reminds his father to call him Jace now, as his father tells him that thanks to their newfound wealth, there is a certain responsibility that comes with it. Jace knows that the city isn't ready for this kind of change it needs, but Lucius says that's what he's saying since maybe the Fox family can help make it ready. Grifter bursts into the room, alerting the family to the code green at Arkham and that the Joker has attacked again. At City Hall, Mayor Chris Nakano is filled in on the situation by Commissioner Montoya, who knows there is a chance that Joker is using the expectations of his attack as an advantage, but they don't know anything that's going on inside the prison since her own men that Gordon embedded in the asylum a long time ago aren't answering. Nakano wants the full force of the GCPD to descend on the asylum, knowing that there is a guard that is still left alive in there, so they need to get him on the line to find out the situation. Mahoney meanwhile rushes through the gas-filled asylum, told to stay on the line by Batman, who races across the city to the asylum. Diana meanwhile is pulled elsewhere to Themyscira, where she sees her mother mourning the loss of her daughter. She sees something is bothering Hippolyta, knowing the gods won't answer her prayers and she feels abandoned. Diana wishes that she could talk with her mother, and when she finally ascends, she attends to let her know herself, but Spectre thinks doing so will rob Hippolyta of the understanding that comes with reflection on mourning. He says Diana remains tethered to her old life, but Diana cuts him off when she hears a noise outside of Hippolyta's chamber. chambers. Outside the chambers, the Amazonians are battling one another as Hippolyta demands to know what foolishness has befallen them. The women say that they are fighting to learn who is the strongest of them and who will take the mantle of Wonder Woman. Hippolyta says that Diana was singular and yet they rush to replace her, wondering who would risk joining Diana in eternal silence to prove worthy. All of the women are quick to raise their hands, but Hippolyta tells them to fix her chamber walls as Diana knows even in grief, her mother is still a real drill sergeant. Hippolyta takes the women into her chambers to see the head of the Gorgon Medusa, saying that only those whose hearts are just and their minds not clouded by ambition will survive its stony gaze. Some of the warriors leave in fear, leaving only Nubia left to face the Medusa's head alone. She hopes that if she's turned into a statue, the birds are kept from her as she opens the box, not finding a head but a queen's tiara. Hippolyta says that this is her fate now as she renounces her queen status to enter the world of men. Nubia isn't so sure about this, and this is still much they don't know. Like the Amazonian from Brazil. Hippolyta intends on finding out what Yara Flor is up to, but the Amazonians need a queen now, and that is to be Nubia, since she has the wisdom and temperament and no doubt in herself. Nubia says that she'll do her best, as Hippolyta reassures her that nothing is going to happen to her in man's world. As they head outside, Nubia asks if they really do have a Medusa's head, learning that Hippolyta does indeed have one, but it's being kept safely hidden. Outside, Hippolyta introduces the new queen of the Amazons to her cheering people. Elsewhere, Yara Flor signs with her auntie that she is going back to Brazil whether her auntie likes it or not. Her auntie signs that they left for a good reason and it's too dangerous, as her uncle tells them to stop fighting so they can take a picture of Yara's big day. The women pose for a photo in the Boise airport terminal, but still Yara's auntie is upset. Yara says goodbye to her uncle Brian, hoping that he would tell Aunt Renata that she loves her, heading into the airport as a group of Amazonians continue to track the woman. Diana is soon taken to New York, where Obsidian looks over the empty JSA headquarters, remembering his father's oath of when he was part of the JSA all those years ago, and then later how he and his sister joined Infinity Inc., learning just who their long-lost father really was. Jade and Obsidian meet with Alan, who says that he's walked the earth longer than he anticipated and he's been fighting too long that he's beginning to neglect a lot of himself. Jade thinks that he means them, but he can't blame himself for not being there for them, since he wasn't made aware he had children until they were adults. Alan knows it's more than that as he gets teary-eyed, asking his son if it's always this awkward to say. Todd says it is, but it gets better afterwards. Alan reveals that back in an earlier time, he had to keep part of himself hidden from friends and family, even going so far as to marry a couple of women, whom he knows he loved in his mind, but he knows in doing so he was hiding himself away. Todd tells him just to say the words, since they both love him so he can say them. Alan Scott reveals to his children that he is gay, garnering a hug from Jade as he says that there have been a few people throughout the years who have known, but now some of the greatest minds of the world are looking at the frontier again, and they have asked him to become a sentinel overlooking the totality of the world, and because of it, he didn't think it would be right to take the job without finally being the whole person he is with his friends and family. He knows he stands to learn a lot from a new generation of ring slingers, hugging his family, and knows that there is no fear now. Elsewhere in New York, a ferry gets ready to depart as Diana is shown a new generation of heroes hungry for experience. At the terminal, a young boy buys a Titans-themed backpack, telling the seller that the transaction never happened. Boarding the boat with the various other kids with the same backpack, the ferry takes them all to their first day at school in Titans Academy, where one of the children pulls a Red X mask from his backpack. Diana is whisked away to Metropolis, where a monster is rampaging through the streets. Spectre says that this is where the darkness she seeks is, and Diana thinks she means the creature, but Spectre is referring to Jonathan Kent. Spectre says that John Kent isn't Superman like Diana thinks he is and never must be. Spectre explains that the alien he fights is an Imperial Maw, and it uses space and time as its weapons, and while he knows not how the creature came to be there, the son of Superman is no equal to it. Spectre knows that John will never be near enough to the creature to harm it, since his strength and speed are meaningless to the creature. Spectre says while he has his father's physical gifts, that will never make him Superman. Diana tells him to see beyond the physical as Superboy races into the creature's maw, where space and time bend around him. Spectre says that this is the boy's end, and while Clark was born on another planet, he was of this time, but Jonathan Kent is of no place and no time. Jonathan experiences many of the points of his life as he journeys through the Maw, as Spectre knows that he's lost years in space with a madman and was imprisoned by a broken version of his own father, only coming of age 1,000 years after his birth, only to return to the present and be given a title he can never fully earn, and while he still tries, he has the makings of a tyrant. Suddenly, Spectre doesn't understand what the boy is doing as John exits the Maw, finding a small baby version of the Imperial Maw. As Diana says, he's showing both wisdom and compassion. Diana explains that using the Maw's own power, John searched through space and time until he found the being when it was newly lost and alone and hopeless, and returned it to its rightful place on its homeworld. Diana says that out of compassion, Superman risked his own life for an enemy's sake, and what's a more truer test of a Superman than that? Spectre relents, saying that he is Superman for now, but warns her that this one is still lost and Earth will pay the price one day. The heroes move to another part of the world where Oliver Queen and Diana Drake have rekindled their love. They talk about their lost memories seeping back to them, just like Mr. Terrific said they would. Diana hates all of this cosmic junk as Oliver reminds her he's now richer than Batman, but Diana never cared for the money, and if she did, she'd be calling herself Bat Canary. Oliver's phone rings and soon hangs up, making Oliver wonder if he can track it since it came from an old Q phone, making him wonder who would do that. Diana doesn't care, wanting to leave all of this cosmic stuff to the Justice League, but Oliver has some interesting news regarding that. At a gas station in the middle of nowhere, the very much alive Roy Harper decides on who to call and let know he's alive, knowing it's still a bit too early for that. He dumps his phone and trucker cap, taking his leave for the road as he spots a red bow and arrow set nearby, making him chuckle. Spectre asks if Diana has seen any cost yet, but the woman hasn't, wanting to look in places they least suspect. In Blue Valley, Stargirl battles King Midas at the local bank, knowing she's running extremely late for school. She tells the villain to surrender, but Midas exclaims that he never will, knowing the hero will make a glorious piece of art once he's finished with her. Pat, however, soon arrives in the stripe armor, smashing the villain into the ground, defeating him once and for all. Courtney remembers when Pat went by Stripesy and he was part of the 7 Soldiers of Victory way back when. She knows exactly what Pat is going to tell her, knowing he's going to say that she should have waited for him and now she's late for school. Boarding the armor, Pat flies the girl across Blue Valley to school as Courtney knows how all this joyriding soon became a purpose for her, and with Pat, she found someone who was there for her when her father wasn't. Courtney rushes into school where she is stopped by the principal, who is upset she is late yet again. Luckily, Pat arrives, saying that his old car broke down and he convinced Courtney to stick around and wait for her mother. He reminds Courtney that she forgot her lunch, handing her a brown paper bag as the girl plays it off, causing the principal to let her off. Courtney thanks Pat for being there twice that day as the man's phone rings. Answering it, he finds Vigilante on the other end, telling him the 7 soldiers need him as he hangs up. Courtney asks who that was, and Pat knows that it's a reason to ditch school. Spectre feels them being pulled backwards as back in Gotham, Batman gets Mahoney to continue to talk to him, telling him it's going to be okay as he reaches the central security. Mahoney finds there is no sign of a mass breakout and everything and anything is still in their cells. Batman knows they need to get the toxin out of the asylum, wanting to use the special fire system that was installed to prevent Mr. Freeze from escaping. Mahoney activates it but finds that there are some nurses holed up in a storage room using oxygen tanks to live, meaning when the fire superheats the air, it will kill them. Batman races towards the prison on his bike as a voice says the heroes have been trying to hold the city together for so long they've hardly noticed how much it's changed around them, but if they are going to have any hope to survive, they need to let the fear in and need to face it and learn that they aren't in control anymore. Ghostmaker Mimo deals with some ninjas as Nightwing faces a group of thugs who have been hurting a defenseless puppy, and Punchline still finds herself incarcerated in jail. The voice continues, saying that these people are going to change and evolve as Mahoney races to the storage room, grabbing the nurses as the fire starts, blowing him and the nurses clear of the building. Batman pulls up as the asylum explodes, finding the grievously injured Mahoney outside. The man asks if the women are safe, and he finds that the nurses are indeed in safe hands as he falls asleep in Batman's arms. The police arrive, saying that Batman is under arrest since Mayor Nakano wants no more masks in Gotham City. Batman ignores the men, looking over the burning asylum and finding life readings, discovering there are 17 people still left alive. The cops are shocked to learn that there are only 17 quarantine left in the whole asylum as Batman tells them to fire if they want to, but he is going to go in and save those people. Elsewhere at Saint Industries, Simon Saint asks the Doctor what his final diagnosis of the people of Gotham City is, asking if they really think they are ready for what the Magistrate program has to offer them, and if they finally are scared enough to change. Scarecrow doesn't think they are nearly scared enough, but they will be. Diana thinks that this is the darkness, but Spectre knows they must let this play out as they are drawn to heroes who shine lights on fear. In hyperspace, Jon Stewart and Simon Baz talk about the Guardians splitting up Simon and Jessica, with Simon wondering why he's now on babysit duty, slowly creeping along in a spaceship instead of using the rings. Jon knows that this is because Kelly is important and the ship is to keep her comfortable while she looks over the history of the Green Lantern Corps. Kelly meanwhile is still in the virtual reality world, where she learns all of the Green Lantern's history from the Guardians' holograms. Simon wonders what her deal is, but Jon doesn't know, knowing the Guardians want to see her and the powerful gauntlet she somehow has stuck to her hand. Jon says that the galaxy is coming together as the United Planets and nobody knows where the Guardians stand in all of this, so they need to show strength and stability during the conclave, so it's all hands on deck. Simon knows that Hal, Jess and Kyle got hall passes, but Jon knows they are busy protecting the Crux worlds. The ship soon drops from hyperspace, so Jon tells Kelly that she won't want to miss this as the girl comes to the cockpit to witness all of the United Planet ships dropping out of hyperspace around Oa, as Jon welcomes the girl to the home of the Green Lantern Corps. Spectre knows that Ganthet would know if there was a coming darkness there, so they head elsewhere, where Diana sees Barry Allen, knowing he's more than the hope the Spectre sees, knowing recently he found a path to move forward. Flash finishes up his vibrational frequency tests and heads to the House of Heroes, where he tells President Superman that Earth Zero looks stable for now, and his look into the vibrational frequencies match Calvin's readings. Calvin notes how many of the worlds have returned to where they were, but a few have had their histories restarted, and with Barry's work they should be able to keep track of the growing numbers of multiverses, especially with the joint communications between their worlds. He wonders if Barry has considered his offer, and Barry knows he needs to take care of a few things first. Barry goes to meet with Wally on the Totality, who says he's just got done dealing with Kilgore, who was trying to take over the internet again. He knows Barry was talking with President Superman, and Barry reveals that that's why he called Wally there, since he's been working with Justice Incarnate observing the new multiverse, and with this comes new challenges. Therefore, he's been offered a place on Justice Incarnate to be their Earth's representative. Wally wonders about Central City and the Justice League and who will be Flash, so Barry tells Wally that he is the Flash now, and when he was gone before, Wally filled his boots well and did him proud, and he wouldn't go running off if he didn't think the boy was up for the task. Wally is honoured as Barry knows that coming back was hard for the boy and he's still worried about redeeming himself, but he wants him to trust him. Barry and Wally race off back home to Central City to talk out the details as Spectre sees the torch has been passed and thinks that this could be the cost Wonder Woman was talking about, but Diana says that this is a good thing, admiring the two Flash's bravery as they run into new chapters of their lives no matter how scary or unknown it is. Spectre wonders if Diana is ready herself, and how does she judge what she has seen. Diana says that for years their lives were infected with despair, as a force from another universe manipulated their lives for some experiment, stealing so much from them, but now she can see that influence is gone and they are free to embrace the best parts of themselves and move forward into exciting new chapters of their lives, which come with wonder and terror. But these fears are always with them, and perhaps the cost she was warned about is the past they must leave behind. But her friends are up to the task since they can now take on any darkness. Spectre says that there are other places they can look, but Diana wants to go back to the Quintessence. Heading back to the beings, Diana is asked if she again wants to join them, and she has an answer, having faith her friends and family can take care of themselves. She however declines the offer, knowing now anything is possible, but the Quintessence wants her to stay still and just watch it all. She says Spectre showed her the brave people embracing change, and it reminded her of how Steve Trevor washed up on the shores of Themyscira, and where instead of sending him back alone to man's world, she travelled with him and begun a new chapter in her life, one greater than she could ever think of, and now she finds herself on a different shore, and it's time for her to set sail into the infinite frontier. Later on, the Quintessence talk about Diana not joining them, knowing had she, they would have told her that they had already trapped the threat she was worried about. The wizard knows that had she joined, she would have learned that there is nothing they cannot control or defeat. The beings descend onto Earth Omega, which will be used to house the darkness darkness. The darkness, however, tells them all to die as it kills the entire Quintessence. The voice says that Wonder Woman and her kind believe this will be a new beginning, but it will bring them closer to the finale, and it always leads back to him. The being says that now they have reconstituted all of their lesser forms, and he has finally achieved his true form, and his power exceeds what it was before the first crisis. The being stomps on Spectre, destroying him, as Darkseid says he is finite, he is final, and he is the end of everything. On Earth Zero, Cameron Chase arrives at the Hall of Justice, wanting to speak with the Justice League, and she has an appointment, saying someone needs to save her out loud. Superman soon appears, and Chase knew he couldn't resist a damsel in distress. As Superman takes a photo with some kids, he says that he was alerted the minute she stepped into the building. She asks about the supposed prison under the hall, but Clark talks about the reason for her visit. Learning from the woman it's just a friendly chat, but Clark wonders if they are friends, since the last time they met, she was trying to arrest his wife. Chase wonders if it's bad cop time as they go and see Batman, who demands to know what she's investigating. She knows he's a great detective, so he can tell her, so Batman knows that she's working for Mr. Bones again since he's worried about the multiverse. Chase says that she isn't Bones and not paranoid about the multiverse like him unless someone gives her a reason to be. She asks him if it's weird knowing that there are other Batmans and Supermans out there, wondering if they ever feel less special now. Superman says that they filed a report about the multiverse with the right people, something Chase is well aware of since she read them all, knowing all about Perpetua and the Batman Who Laughs in the Dark Multiverse, and even Dr. Manhattan. She wants to know exactly when reality was being manipulated, so Superman says since the attack they have opened communications with other Earths and are making moves so that people on their world don't have to worry. Chase says that they are worried and it's getting scary now with people looking at the red sky and seeing multiple Earths, and they want to know why, and the League taking care of it won't be cutting it as an excuse anymore. Superman asks if the League is under investigation, but Chase says an evil version of Batman tried to take over Gotham, but it was a different Batman from another world, so when does the evil Superman show up? An alarm goes off, signaling Aquaman and Hawkgirl are dealing with a fourth world brimstone, the third one of the year. Superman heads out to help them as Chase has some more questions, but she is super speeded out of the hall as Batman and Superman race away to help their friends. Chase contacts Bones, telling him of her meeting as Bones says she's got a small errand for her since there is someone he wants recruited to their side as he sends her a video of Captain Atom returning. At the House of Heroes, Justice Incarnate revealed that Thomas Wayne's ship wasn't a normal ship, and fragments of it were shot across the multiverse, with the team tracking them down through the different Earths, with the metal being different from what the Ultima Thule is made out of, and it has no vibration or frequency, and they are getting some resistance in retrieving these pieces, but the ones they have found have no survivors with it. The team think that they were trying to transport prisoners across the multiverse, but it all went boom. Machine Head is collecting the pieces so he can rebuild the ship as President Superman shows Thomas the multiverse, even giving him the Multiverse Guidebook by Grant Morrison. Thomas says that he doesn't read comic books, but Calvin thinks he should, asking Harbinger where Barry Allen of Earth Zero is. Harbinger says that he was exploring the multiverse, but there were no logs of his missions, which is very unlike Barry. She asks Thomas what he remembers, so he tells Superman he remembers being in Arkham, healing from his injuries in solitary, and one day, some woman came to him, locking him up in a spaceship, but he fought back and stole an escape shuttle, with the next thing he remembers waking in the House of Heroes. Calvin knows that someone was trying to transport him off Earth Zero, wondering where they were taking him. Harbinger alerts President Superman of another fragment on Earth 22, but their contact isn't answering their hails, so Calvin says he will deal with this himself, and Thomas is going to come with him since maybe seeing the ship will jog his memory. Heading to Earth 22, Calvin says that he wants to take Thomas back to Earth Zero when he's done, but the man doesn't want to go back there since he thinks having his whole world destroyed messed him up more than he cares to admit. Calvin can relate, wondering about Bruce, so Thomas says that he was angry at his son, betraying himself, and he doesn't deserve to see him ever again, and if he believes he is dead, it's for the best. Thomas knows that he thought he was protecting his family, but he was wrong. Calvin finds it nice that he has a family, since being president on his world and protecting the multiverse doesn't leave much room for relationships, let alone children. Thomas thinks the man should have a family, as suddenly Thomas hears a voice say that he is the last son of a dead reality. Calvin asks what he hears as the Superman is blasted by an energy beam. Thomas sees the being who did it, knowing that they didn't have one of him on his reality. The being is revealed to be Magog, who knows that they shouldn't have come to Earth 22 since outsiders are forbidden on their world. Calvin knows all about Magog, thinking that he was reformed in his ways, but if the multiverse reverted him back to his villainous ways, who else has it done it to as well? On Earth Zero, Mr. Terrific, Obsidian, Green Lantern, and Vandal Savage investigate the explosion at the JSA HQ and Jade's disappearance. Alan knew the green flames were his daughters, but there is no trace of her or anyone else. Vandal wonders whoever took the girl also took the rest. Obsidian wants to know what they are talking about, so Mr. Terrific tells the man that the first thing the totality did was scan those who had been returned to the multiverse when it was restored, and those who were missing, and while a few JSA members checked in, a few fell off the map. Obsidian thought that everyone was back, but Michael tells him that they have been studying the changes to the world and it went through tremendous trauma, but there is also a lot they don't understand yet. Alan says that not everyone has their memories back or is easy to locate, and his son isn't happy he knew about this, getting angry and wanting to go door to door with all their villains to find out where Jade has been taken, and he wants to start with Vandal Savage. Vandal wants to know why the boy is even there, since this is totality business, and they are meant to monitor manipulations to the time and reality and protect Earth Zero, not missing persons. Alan stays silent as Savage says children are a distraction, wanting the brat to be sent away so they can work. Alan attacks Vandal for what he calls his son, saying if he speaks to his son again, he will wish he wasn't immortal. Alan says if he has to choose between his family and the totality, he will help his son, disappearing with him through a shadow void to help find his daughter. Obsidian says that he can feel enough to know that she is still alive, wanting to know where to begin, but Alan tells him to start in the dark, as elsewhere, Roy Harper wonders why he was chosen to be a Black Lantern, since he doesn't look dead, wondering how he charges the ring, thinking he needs an oath, and remembering what Hal used to say. He remembers Hal telling him years ago it's not easy since the ring chose him. Roy thinks it's because he's fearless, but Hal knows he thinks it's because he believes in himself, something Roy wishes he had. Hal asks the boy when he takes a shot with his bow, who is in control, him or the bow? Using this knowledge, Roy manages to activate the ring, becoming the Black Lantern again and conjuring up some targets to practice on, knowing he's a little rusty with his bow, and if he should call himself Black Arrow from now on, knowing that's kind of silly and Red Hood would probably make fun of him. He remembers Hal's ring talked as well, so he tries to talk with his ring, but it builds a construct of Darkseid, Flashpoint Batman, Psycho Pirate, a captured Flash, and Leanne Harper, his daughter. He reaches out to his daughter, but she disappears as he demands the ring show her again, demanding to know where she is, as the ring says that Darkseid is. Suddenly, Roy is transformed into an Omega Black Lantern zombie, which shoots into the sky as on a nearby military base, the soldiers think it's just some other damn superhero. The arriving Captain Atom tells them to go easy on the heroes since they don't have all of their training. Captain Atom heads through the Metropolis Air Force Base, meeting with Cameron Chase in his barracks. Nathan wonders what she wants, so Chase says that for starters, he died during death metal, yet somehow he is there. Adam says he did die, but everywhere in the multiverse was reborn. Chase tells him the people she works for think he has experience and an interesting perspective on the multiverse, and he is being offered a place at the DEO. Adam, however, says he's flattered, but he's retired since the military offered him a nice deal and he took it, buying a cabin in the middle of nowhere. He knows that he wants to be done with all of this action and live a quiet life, but Chase knows that doesn't sound like the Nathan Adam she used to know. She remembers when they were on mission in Markovia and he told her that he would never rest until the world was safe, but the hero knows that was a long time ago and lots has happened since then. Chase knows, pulling a gun on the man since she knows neither of them have ever met before, and this Captain Atom is not her world's Captain Atom. Nathan is unhappy that he was caught by that old trick, knowing it doesn't matter what world he is from since he just wants to be free. Chase demands to know where the hell her real Captain Atom is, but Nathan doesn't know. On his world, he and Chase were actually friends. Chase tells him to turn himself in without a fight and maybe they can be friends on this world as well. Nathan knows that she doesn't understand what is really happening with the multiverse, but he knows too much and she can't be allowed to take him in. Captain Atom begins ripping open his containment skin, saying that he will find out soon and come for him if he doesn't do this. He apologizes to Chase as she tries to contact the DEO, needing backup, but it's too late, as Captain Atom proclaims that Darkseid is as he explodes, taking out Chase and the entire military base. Elsewhere, Green Lantern and Obsidian chase down a group of their rogues to try and determine who has taken Jade. Todd contacts Damon, apologizing for disappearing on him like he did, but he and his father are looking for any leads on his sister. Damon wonders if they have talked about the double date idea with Alan, but Todd promises he will. But this is the first time he's spent with his father in a long time, wishing it was under better circumstances. Soon they come to visit Shade, but the man knows that he won't be much help since many of his former friends have been quiet lately, but he thinks that maybe it's one of their former enemies to blame, maybe even an enemy of the JSA legacy. Alan doesn't fully understand, so Todd says that it might not actually be a JSA enemy who took Jade, it might be one of his or Jade's in. Elsewhere, the zombified Roy Harper is called upon by his master to come to him as he begins to remember his past lives and his daughter Leanne. He awakens to find himself in space, calming himself as he wonders if he's ever been to space before. He tries to make a construct of a ship with the ring but stops since when he used the ring before, the ring turned him into a zombie and he can't risk that again, and he can't take off the ring either. But if his daughter is alive, he will eventually find her. He intends on just waiting around until someone comes by, and soon someone does in a blinding white light. On Earth 22, Magog attacks President Superman, who knows Magog was meant to be reformed. The villain says that he is reformed, but they are invading his world, and every time someone comes from the multiverse, it's a tragedy, and it interrupts the balance of time and space. Flashpoint Batman attacks with his batarangs, proving Magog's point, noting how Thomas reeks of reality manipulation. He intends on killing Batman as a warning, but Justice Incarnate arrive, demanding Magog stand down. Magog says that Machine Head can throw whomever he wants at him, but he won't like Magog's backup. Superman tells them all to stop, knowing that Magog is right and this is his world. He tells the villain about the shuttle wreckage and how he wants to examine it, so the man allows them to, but they need to leave his world and take the abomination that is Thomas Wayne with them. Machine Head wants to head back to the House of Heroes as Mary knows the ship looks familiar. The team can't however determine its origin world, as Thomas says that the Barry Allen he knew said that he could feel vibrations to sense what world he's in, wondering if the ship would react to someone from the same vibrational pattern as where it was made. The team all touch the vessel, and Superman soon discovers that they need to continue their investigation on his homeworld. Thomas asks if Magog is the only one sick of the multiverse, but Calvin knows that that's what worries him, since he thought the multiverse was coming together in harmony, but he was wrong. He tells Machine Head he's heading home to his Earth, and while he does that, he needs the team to find Barry Allen of Earth Zero. Barry meanwhile finds himself in a strange world where Jay Garrick is as well. Jay tells him he's got to focus since the multiverse needs him. Barry tries to remember where he was, but Jay tells him that he can only be the hero the multiverse needs, but he just needs to run faster than ever before. Barry takes off as on Earth Omega, the Flash awakens to find himself connected up to a giant machine that is forcing him to run. Psycho Pirate says that this all started with him, since he was the first from Earth 1 to race someone from Earth 2. And did he really think that there would be no repercussions to that? Psycho Pirate says he's using his powers to push Barry to be the hero he is to go someplace else. Barry knows that he is the hero and he must save them, as in the Speed Force he sees someone in front of him calling for help. Barry says that he will save them, as Psycho Pirate wants Barry to save the multiverse. Green Lantern and Obsidian meanwhile head to Bloodhaven in their search, finding Command D, a base used for dangerous experiments that the DEO got their hands on. Alan wants to get into the base without being seen, and Todd knows that while light is his deal, darkness is his, and it has its uses. Todd opens up a portal into his darkness, allowing him and his father to slip in unseen. Inside, Alan asks if Todd can feel any connection with Jade, but Todd says that since the JSA HQ blew up, it's been very weak, and if Jade was leading this search and rescue mission, she would have found herself already. Todd knows that between him and Jade, she's been the one who's been the most confident, and a natural leader of both Infinity Inc., the JSA, and even the Justice League. He says that he used to have a hard time with any kind of relationship, making Alan wonder if things between him and Damon are okay, but Todd reassures him that they are, asking if Alan has had a chance to get out there and find someone. Alan says he's too old to be on the dating scene, but Todd knows that's a load of crap and he can be his wingman, telling him that Damon has a friend that he thinks he will hit it off with. Alan doesn't want to be set up by his son, knowing that he knew someone before reality changed, but he doubts that he would have waited on him. Todd knows he'll never know unless he tries, as soon they spot Director Bones. The duo follow him and discover a huge dry dock where a spaceship is being built. Alan can sense the energy coming from the craft as Bone tells his men that they are behind schedule and they need more carrier arcs vibrating today, demanding that they get the cells loaded. Todd wonders what kind of spaceship needs prison cells as they are attacked by Extract, who along with her men surround the heroes. The woman says that she told Bones that if they grab some heroes, the rest would come. Todd reminds his father how he told him that they shouldn't shine his light, but thinks they now should as the duo attack, smashing through the guards, as Alan demands to know where his daughter is. Cameron Chase appears, saying that she knows where Jade is, but he doesn't understand what is at stake since Bones' plan is the only way they can save their world. Chase fires her cannon at the heroes, apologizing, as in space, Roy is picked up by a DEO ship under the command of Agent Hammond. Hammond explains that the DEO once dealt with alien threats, but after the recent events, they now have a new mission to protect Earth Zero's interest from different kinds of invaders. Roy figures that they need to keep an eye on anyone trying to crash the party, but Hammond says that there's that, but they also need to keep track of people who came back from the dead. Roy is attacked by some guards with a sonar scrambler, which makes sure he can't use his ring. Hammond knows that his bosses didn't know that would actually work, but he's an expert with rings. Roy realizes that Agent Hammond is actually Agent Hector Hammond, one of Green Lantern's enemies, but he looks different. Hector says that when reality returned, he was reset to factory settings, considering it a gift, but it still left him with a lot of questions. He takes the ship into the multiverse, showing Roy a place called the Bleed, the space between worlds in the multiverse. Hector says that when they found out he was alive, they needed to know how, so they sent Extract to get him, since they thought he was just a simple archer. But imagine their surprise when they learned he had a black ring, a ring they think might not even be from this universe. He wants to know why it chose him, but Roy doesn't know, something Hammond expected, but a deal has been made for him and that ring. Before they can head to their destination though, the ship is hit by something which soon comes aboard, as Hammond tells his men to secure the doors, since there's no telling what Bones will do to them if they lose another ship. A soldier wants to call in Extract, but Hammond says not to, since they would do this themselves. The soldiers are attacked by Roy, who tells Hammond that he shouldn't have taken his eyes off the target. He uses a Hal Jordan construct to uppercut Hammond and knock him out, as the ring again tries to take him over. A voice thinks that Hammond's team found a zombie world, which means they need to aim for the head, as Power Girl, Damage, Atom Smasher, Wildcat and Jade appear on the ship. Elsewhere, director of the DEO Mr. Bones working away in his office, telling his assistant he doesn't want to be disturbed as he picks up an audio tape of Cameron Chase's report on Calvin Ellis, playing it and learning of the Superman of Earth 23 and how he took a unique approach to protecting humanity by becoming the President of the United States. On Earth 23, Calvin is glad that he was taught how to deactivate his enhanced hearing by the Superman of Earth 24, since there are times when the people around him need to come up with their own solutions. But upon reading their lips, he can see that they need a different approach to this. He knows that with every lunar cycle, the alien armada above them comes back and attacks Moon 3, and they need a proper response. But the people can't see it and can't see past their own fears, and like so many of their problems, this is just another job for Superman. Calvin tells his aides that he prefers their approach doesn't involve the intervention of Superman, since he's growing uncomfortable with their over-reliance in his powers, and he has impossible enemies and responsibilities put upon his shoulders. And what if he was to become lost and trapped, or what if Superman was to die on one of these missions? Jimmy asks what he wants them to do then, so Calvin tells his vice president to settle their fears and work together. Calvin leaves with Courtney and Kellex, telling the others to return to their deliberations, and he expects a credible response by the end of day. Courtney doesn't think that it was wise, but Calvin tells her that they need invention to happen here, since she is one of the few who know of justice incarnate and what they face, so the people and her need to be ready for the worst. Courtney hopes that nothing will happen to him, since she's become quite fond of Superman and the world needs him, but Calvin knows that they have everything they need, and sometimes they just need to be reminded of that, and luckily Jimmy will guide them to the only answer, and they will remember that Superman doesn't always need to save the day. Courtney hopes that Superman will, and Calvin knows that he will forever, telling Kellex that they have a busy day ahead. Calvin takes off to battle Brainiac in Metropolis, telling Kellex to let Machine Head would know that he'll be late. Calvin remembers how he used to have robot duplicates to take over from him from time to time when the multiverse's problems were too big, but then the Brainiac OS broke free and corrupted the algorithm of the robots and almost started World War IV. The code, however, wasn't fully destroyed, and it is persistent as he smashes the robot down, telling Calyx to let Perry know he will repair the damage later. As he helps Machine Head in the House of Heroes, Calvin knows the problem is time, which is why he's working with the hero of Earth 8 to try and find more of it. After a quick prayer session with his parents in Smallville and a lunch with the Markovian ambassador, Superman battles Kryptonite Man, who beats the hero down, but while he's down for the count, Calvin quickly suits up in his radiation suit, smashing the villain in the face and taking him down before racing off to stop a runaway stealth bomber from crashing into a baseball field. He knows the Brainiac OS has never attacked twice in one day, making him know he needs more time. After the attack, he holds a press conference at the White House addressing the rumors of what's happening near Earth 3 with aliens. Calvin says that everything that's happened today was unexpected distractions and they are fighting to catch up. Later in downtown LA, Superman races to stop another multiversal breach, returning almost an hour later, beaten and bloody. Calyx tells Calvin that his tussle with the Kryptonite Man begun a domino effect, and while he was ahead of everything up until then, he is now behind. Calvin doesn't want to know any more, only what he has forgotten. Just after 4 PM, he helps fix the Daily Planet's globe, promising a little girl nearby that he'll help find her dog, quickly getting the dog back to the little girl before meeting with his team back at the White House, learning they know exactly what they need to do. Calvin is impressed, telling everyone to get a good night's sleep since tomorrow they do it all again. Later, Calvin meets with Courtney again, learning that the woman didn't really believe that they could do this. She says that she can see that he is bruised and injured in his day and knows that he couldn't find extra time. Calyx quickly shoos the woman away with a countdown, prompting Calvin to tell him to play nice as he opens a portal into the margin, a dimensional space the Black Martians used. Calvin knows that this is a space used to heal the trauma from telepathic intrusion, so any day he can, he takes every bit of time that he's stolen to get away there. For nearly 4 minutes, Calvin Ellis and Superman cease to exist, and soon the renewal begins, with the Calvin Ellis that emerges from the margin being better than the one before that morning. And this Calvin is ready to do everything all over again, even if it's too much, and this new Calvin Ellis is prepared for the never-ending battle. Later on Moon 3, Superman stops the invading armada as Director Bones stops his tape, telling his assistant to wipe his schedule since he'll be there all day following up on Cameron Chase's reports, with his next tape focusing on Roy Harper. Cameron Chase's report on Roy Harper start up, stating that he is dead, or at least he was, and trying to understand him means piecing together the many titles he has held in the past. In the past, Green Arrow and Speedy chase Deathstroke across the roofs of Star City. Oliver tells Roy to stay in control of the fight, wanting him to hit Slade with a tracker. Chase knows that Roy has gone by Speedy, Red Arrow, and Arsenal and worked with the Justice League, Teen Titans, Outlaws, and Green Arrow himself, but it's possible he doesn't actually remember all of that now, after what he has been through. Roy fires his arrow, missing Slade and allowing him to escape, but Oliver knows that it's fine since he won't get very far. Roy gets angry, snapping his bow since he missed the shot, but Oliver says it's not his fault since Slade got the better of both of them. He talks about how Buddhist monks would use archery as a form of meditation, believing it to be about being in the moment, focusing on a single target and nothing else, and not allowing emotions to cloud one's perception. Oliver warns Roy not to let his anger control him since that's the way Slade wins. Roy says that meditating on his mistakes won't fix that, but he misses the point as Oliver says he needs to meditate on the goal, not the mistake, and change perspective. Cameron wonders if thanks to the man's shattered past, what kind of man Roy Harper is now and how much does he remember and what is he going to be, as in the present day, Roy Harper is beaten around a New Mexico bar by a much larger opponent named Big Bill. Roy isn't impressed with how hard the man hits, reiterating the point to the surprised man that he wanted to know how hard he hit, since he didn't feel a thing. The man comes for him as Cameron's report wonders if Roy can ever be a hero again, since he crawled back to life on more than one occasion, suffering from addiction, watched his friends die, and even lost his only daughter to the villain Electrocutioner. Chase says that she cannot know how Roy felt after having to mourn the death of a child or the feelings that he'll have as he regains these memories. Roy is tossed around the bar, helped up by the bartender who thinks that he should stop antagonizing Big Bill or at least try and hit him back, but Roy tells the woman that he's fine, but she knows that the bloodied man isn't, since the big guy will kill him, since Big Bill doesn't know when to stop once he gets started. Roy is counting on that as he confronts the man again, saying that he's acting like a clown, so the man grabs him by the throat, saying he doesn't plan on holding back this time. Suddenly, the man is hit on the back of the head by a baseball bat wielded by the bartender, who tells Bill to stop. The enraged Bill takes the bat, wondering how the girl will make him stop. He raises the bat to hit her, but before he can, Roy stops him, saying that he can sense some real anger issues inside Big Bill, something he knows all about. Roy kicks the man down, giving the bat back to the woman before returning to Bill, as Cameron knows that Helen back again changes a man, wondering what type of man Roy Harper has been changed into. Later, Roy leaves the bar with Big Bill's chopper keys, called to by the bartender, who knows that he saved her, but Roy thinks that she actually saved him, and she reminds him of someone. She hopes that that's a good thing, learning that this woman cared for him when she had no reason to, just like the bartender did. Roy heads off on the chopper as Cameron's report comes to a close, wondering if Roy is unable to find a path that leads away from his destructive tendencies. She fears that he'll become more of an enemy than an ally, and he warrants some further discussion. Director Bones, however, turns off the report, finding it all quite fascinating, knowing Chase has always had a soft spot for the broken ones, but she doesn't need to be playing therapist with these people, since there's no time for it, not when the multiverse is at stake. Director Bones continues his research into Cameron Chase's files, picking up one on Obsidian and Jade, calling them the failed actress who came back to life and the schizophrenic brother of hers who tried to cloak the world in darkness. Popping in the tape, Bones knows it's worth keeping an eye on them even if their father was the first Green Lantern. At the JSA headquarters in New York, Alan hugs his son as on the roof, Jade gets ready to take off, getting her star heart to dance across her palm, knowing after her death and the rebirth of the universe, the star heart feels very different. Todd comes up to see his sister, asking how she is, and Jade knows he's talking about their father coming out, something she finds amazing, but Obsidian actually meant with everything else. Jade says that she's great, but her brother can see through the lie. Jade comes clean, saying that she's been to outer space dozens of times, dated a Green Lantern, and flown at supersonic speeds across Earth to fight gods, and all through that, she trusted her green flame to keep her safe and carry her, but she has never considered that she never really knew how it works. Todd knows that it's like their fathers, the magic of the universe forged into a weapon by the Guardians of the Universe. Jade understands that, but what if it stops working and gets rid of her? Their talk is interrupted by an alert from the Star Heart, which tells them something is wrong and something has returned to Earth. Jade doesn't remember what it is since everything else feels so different, but Obsidian hopes that she is given a location by it. Jade says that it's really far away, but Todd knows that she doesn't want to fly with Starheart acting up right now, so they will take a shortcut. He covers them in his shadow, and Jade joins him in the darkness as she knows while she has good parents, Todd didn't, and they found each other when she found the Starheart and Todd found his connections to the Shadowlands. Jade knows that their father waged a war of light against darkness, and Todd has inherited the darkness. Soon Jade becomes lost in the darkness, but Todd soon arrives to be with her, pulling her from the Shadowlands. He apologizes since she strayed too close to a current of terror, and there are places in there that will make one think of awful things. Jade says that she's fine as they arrive at a mountain range, and Jade soon sees a man on a ledge nearby as he steps off. The heroes spring into action, but Jade knows that if she aims the Starheart wrong, it could hurt the man. She thinks of her brother and how he could just touch a man and show him the bottomless dread inside of him, knowing that he never tested the limits of his powers, yet he still uses them and walks their tightropes every day like they are nothing. Obsidian races to the man, grabbing him midair and finding that he's in some sort of trance as the man goes on about hearing the end and having heard the final raindrop fall on the dust. Jane can also hear the music, going off to look for it, and soon she comes across the villain Chroma, who says they have brought their apocalypse song to the humans and they want to sing about how they will all die. Jade knows that they have met the being before, and the villain promised not to return for 1,000,000 years. Chroma apologizes since they didn't plan on returning, but the universe was remade and they wanted to hear how everything dies on a planet with so many textures, and so they will sing it into oblivion. Jade readies the Starheart to deal with Chroma and their apocalypse song, but Obsidian unleashes his shadows, trapping them all in the Shadowlands. Todd says that the villain wanted something new and knows he's never been there before. Chroma is interested in the realm, knowing that he will sing of it, and when they return to Earth he will destroy that as well. Obsidian asks how long it will take him to sing of the Shadowlands, and Chroma says his songs aren't measured in linear time, so it could be anywhere between 15 minutes or 15 million years. Jade and Obsidian leave the Shadowlands, letting Chroma sing his heart out, as Jade asks why aren't they going to stop him, but Todd says there isn't anything they can do, since if Chroma wants to destroy the planet, he probably will, but he's going to be singing into the Shadowlands until Earth is dust anyway. Jade isn't so sure, wondering what if he comes out in 20 minutes or in a week or in just 20 years from now. Obsidian says that the music could stop, but he wants her to listen as she can hear the song from the farthest reaches of the Shadowlands, where it can't hurt them. Jade finds it quite beautiful as Todd reminds his sister that all the nasty parts of life are waiting for them somewhere, but until then they might as well just listen to the music and might as well live. Todd wants to go and find the Mountaineer and get him to safety, but Jade says that she's got it, activating the Starheart and taking to the skies. Knowing the flame in her hand is a little different now than it was before, and it might let her down one day, but until then it can just watch her fly. Director Bones soon runs out of booze, calling his assistant to grab his emergency bottle and bring it to him right away. He gets back to work, grabbing one of Chase's tapes labeled The Totality. Putting it on, Bones learns about the group called The Totality, a team of heroes and villains whose focus is expansive and very likely in direct conflict with the DEO's objectives. Cameron Chase doesn't know what they are doing or what they want, but suspects their activities are being shielded by Martian Manhunter, who was the only member she has been able to confirm of the team. Elsewhere, the Martian Manhunter of Earth-0 meets with the Martian Manhunter of Earth-23 as their teams battle it out on the streets of Earth-0. Both Manhunters learn that they were testing the early detection systems they made to detect breaches in the fabric of time and space, finding they did it at the exact same time on the exact same day. Earth-0 Manhunter thinks reality has a sense of humor thanks to this, as Earth-23 John thinks that they should call their teams off before there's an accident, since both of them want the same thing, to protect their realities from harm. Manhunter thinks that there is more to consider, and he knows his counterpart can see the idea in his mind. The other Manhunter finds it rather interesting he doesn't trust some of the people on his team, as suddenly a portal opens above the team and Calvin Ellis arrives, causing both Manhunters to activate Protocol S, scrambling to their psychic safe rooms. Superman finds the area deserted, knowing whomever did this is impressive, but the problem he's found with telepathic trapdoors is the illusion the teams are feeding his brain works better if it's done on people without enhanced senses like his. He says that the one thing that always gives them away, however, is the smell, and while he cannot see them, he can smell Martian perspiration, the oil that keeps the Thanagarian's wings clean, and Lex Luthor's aftershave, since it's the same aftershave as his Lex Luthor's. He demands they stop wasting his time, wanting to know what Earth they are from. Vandal Savage attacks Superman, saying that they are from their Earth 23. Superman grabs the villain, thinking that he should know better by now, demanding the others show themselves as well. The two teams do, wanting to explain themselves, as Manhunter knows that Superman is not to be harmed in any way, and is simply to be occupied until they patch the dimensional breach. John knows that he can control his team, wondering if Earth-0 Manhunter can control his. Earth-0 Manhunter heads into the psychic safe room with his team, where Mr. Terrific says that he has the dimensional patch, but he thought they decided it was too dangerous to even attempt this. Manhunter knows they have another problem before they start sending people back to Earth-23, since in the skirmish, one of their team was replaced with one of them, meaning one of them at the table is an imposter. The team don't take him seriously, with Hawkgirl knowing that she was in the air the entire time. Manhunter puts forth a simple test, knowing that when each of them agreed to join the team, they each told him the precise reason why, and he encoded their answers within his personal neural network, calling it memory printing. Lex cuts him off, calling this nonsense since he doesn't believe Manhunter, knowing the Martian has been replaced and this game of his is nothing more than just that. demanding their John Jones get released back to them or he will set his mind on fire. Michael stops them but knows Lex has a fair question, since given Manhunter's abilities it would be impossible for any of them to know if he was being manipulated telepathically or not. Vandal Savage knows that he can't be manipulated telepathically, having developed a resistance to it in the early 20th century. Talia al Ghul, however, knows that right now only words are being used to manipulate them. Manhunter asks Talia to tell them why she is there, so after a moment the woman says it's because reality has already been manipulated according to the whims of others, and her son chose to follow his father's path, a weak man who has never killed, even with great cause. Talia doesn't think her son joining his father is the natural order of things, and she intends to make sure the world never changes again and tears another mother from her son. Manhunter finds her memory matching the one he has in his mind, so Lex goes next, saying he's there because Mr. Terrific believes him to be the smartest man in the world, and Lex doesn't believe that, and if the group trust Michael's innovations, they will surely die, so they deserve better. Lex asks Michael a question, wondering what his consultation fee is because his is $1 million a minute. Mr. Terrific says he's there to make the multiverse play fair and to stop Lex Luthor whenever he decides to be Lex Luthor. Vandal says that life bores him and he assumed this team wouldn't, but he was mistaken since they aren't worth his time. The man leaves as Manhunter asks Hawkgirl, who remembers that she told John in private and it wasn't any of his business why she said yes, only that she would protect all time and space because he asked her to. She knows the Earth-Zero Martian Manhunter would remember that, knowing that Lex was right. The team attack the Earth-23 John, who finds their conclusion very good. Manhunter knows that despite their differences, they moved as one to protect their teammate. He thinks them as Michael knows that there was never actually an imposter, and this was their Manhunter, meaning technically Lex was wrong, like always. Lex shouts at Michael, saying he hasn't seen anything from the hero that justifies his terrific codename. Manhunter takes the group back to Earth-Zero, wanting to see how their counterparts from Earth-23 explain the situation to Superman. The Earth-23 Manhunter, however, found he has very little control over his Vandal Savage, and both he and Superman really don't like each other for some reason. John knows that his concerns are eased now as the Earth-23 Manhunter sends a download of their encounter to his counterpart's frontal lobe, since something might be able to help them manage the Earth-Zero Superman when the time comes. Earth-Zero Manhunter sends his counterpart their own test systems for review, wanting to adjust their devices to confirm that no other totalities perform experiments at the same time on the same day so they can avoid a null convergence. He offers the Earth-23 hero a device that will get them all home and leave them in different locations from their Superman to avoid any more awkward moments. The Earth-23 Manhunter knows that he will need some help getting his Superman and Savage to the portal, so the teams head to go and split up the heroes, knowing that they will never see each other again, but Manhunter doesn't think so his Earth-23 counterpart says until they see them again when the reality comes apart at the seams. Director Bones tells Mildred he doesn't care if it's not ready and she needs to bring him L23. Suddenly there is a rumbling as the roof caves in and a hulking version of Captain Boomerang crashes through, confronting Bones. Bones tells his assistant he'll call her back as Cameron Chase's recordings say that all have good and evil in them, but some have more of one than the other. But Bones defies that argument of good and evil and black and white. 30 minutes before, Captain Boomerang talks with Director Bones, who asks Digger if he remembers being eaten alive. Chase's recordings say that the decisions were made before Bones before he was even born, thanks to a mad doctor who created him. Boomerang says he doesn't remember that, or turning into a radiation-infused monster and being eaten by a mutant hyena. Digger thinks that maybe his subconscious is suppressing the trauma, wanting to be let go from his imprisonment. Bones think it's time for something different, as Chase knows, be it villain or anti-hero, Bones' moral compass usually points him in the right direction. Bones thinks that Boomerang is lying and he does remember, and because of it he thinks that he's more dangerous than anyone realizes, since he was filled with radiation that transformed his entire body, and he can't think that Bones won't believe he's just back to normal now, knowing since something happened to him in the multiverse and he wants to find out what. Digger says he's telling the truth and he doesn't remember anything, and as far as he's aware nothing actually happened and he just woke up in the desert where the DEO found him. Digger says that he cannot be kept chained up there, but Bones says technically he doesn't exist, so he can do whatever he wants to him. him. He begins filling Digger's chamber with a gas as Chase's recordings state that she worked with Bones and has seen him as both a sinner and a misguided saint. Having heard his convictions and knowing that he truly believes in what he does, Bones tells Digger that the mission of the DEO is to protect Earth from threats from metahumans and aliens, and now the multiverse, and they have barely begun to understand it. The gas transforms Digger into a monstrous creature as Chase says that sometimes a line has to be crossed for the greater good. The monstrous Digger rips free from his shackles, smashing on the glass as Bones says that the dark radiation never left his bloodstream and the cell will hold him. Digger, however, smashes straight through the glass as Chase says that Bones has been a costume villain turned hero, a bureaucrat, and during all this, it was always been clear that the costume vigilanteism has limits and dangers to the civilian population, and she cannot help but wonder if the world would be better off in the hands of someone like Bones, who is neither good nor evil. The monstrous Boomerang tries to grab Bones, but he thinks that's not a good idea as his hands are burnt thanks to Bones' invisible cyanide skin. Bones runs away, hoping that Mildred unlocked L23. She says that it's not been fully tested and something could happen, but Bones knows something already is happening as Boomerang rips off a bone backspine and throws it at Director Bones like a boomerang. Director Bones panics, calling for Mildred to unlock the door behind him, and she does, allowing him to dive out of the way and let Boomerang barrel right past into the chamber. The door slams closed behind Boomerang and Bones tells Mildred to initiate the protocol, but again the assistant says that it's not been tested. Bones demands that she activates the protocol, so the chamber activates and blasts Boomerang with an electrical charge, reverting Digger back to his human form, as Chase says that they have seen firsthand how dangerous the multiverse can really be, and how many lives are ruined by it, and how many of the good guys are unable to or unwilling to do what is needed since it involves the willingness to exist in those grey spaces between right and wrong, and they are unwilling to meet their monsters. Bones tells the recovering Digger that he just revealed his better half as later he finishes Cameron's tape on him, learning the woman thinks that Bones' own past with the multiverse might compromise his future choices, but Bones wonders about his past, wondering what Cameron Chase knows that he doesn't. Director Bones finally gets to the Psycho Pirate file. Knowing he's one, he actually makes him nervous, wondering where the being is. Opening the cassette tape case, Bones finds a strange, solid white tape, but disregards it as he pops it into the player. Pressing play brings forth a scream into his head as the voice says that there is a lonely man who travels down from town to town, and the man currently walking the street is not him. The voice says that no one has seen the lonely man travel, almost like towns go to him, and if one wishes to meet the lonely man, they have to look for a building that is unusually flat. The man in the street spots such a building, investigating it, and going into the strange two-dimensional front door which leads him into a dark room, where he finds the gold Medusa mask of Psycho Pirate on the table. The man knows it really is him as Psycho Pirate leans out of the shadows. The man says that he didn't dare hope that it could really be him, as Psycho Pirate asks what he has heard as the man sits, saying that he has heard when someone puts on the mask and answers 3 questions from Psycho Pirate, he will grant them a share of his limitless power. Psycho Pirate says that power is not limitless, but the man knows that he has power over the entire human emotional spectrum, and that's all that really matters. Psycho Pirate asks the man what he's heard if he answers the questions wrongly. The man says if he knows he does that, he won't be seen again. He picks up the mask and puts it on as a voice says that the mask has no straps, but he can feel it was molded to the wearer's face, and the gold has the smell of emotions to it. Psycho Pirate asks him the first question, what can they know? And the man likes that question, thinking about it a lot, so he says that he thinks about how light can only exist to them because they have eyes, and air is only useful if they have lungs to translate it into breath, and without those tools they would not exist. The man says that they are shackled by their limitations of the human form, and they can only ever know what their senses are willing to tell them. Roger thinks that's a good answer, as the man knows that they say the pirate can see the very limits of that, and see beyond reality itself. Roger says that there was a crisis and he came unstuck from the universe, knowing the man has done his research. The man asks if that's one of his questions, but the Psycho Pirate says that that's just an observation. The man says that he has done his research, knowing everything about Roger Hayden and how he was a petty gangster before finding the mask and it made him into something more, but he never fulfilled his potential of his powers, and the man can help him with that. Roger delivers his second question, asking what is real. Thinking for a moment, the man says that only their emotions are real and the rest of life could be false, designed by someone someone else and an entire world could be a delusion or an illusion. But if one was bored, they are really bored, or if one was enraged, they are really enraged. And while the source of the emotions could be false, the emotions themselves aren't, and they are made entirely of them. Roger is happy with that answer, knowing not many would have thought about that, and he didn't think that until after he put on the mask. The man says he's been looking for a like-minded soul for ages, asking if Roger does this because he's searching for someone like him, so he doesn't have to feel alone. Roger gets to his last question, asking who is the man. The man says that he is only a man, born and raised in the middle of nowhere, and now he's a fry cook in the middle of nowhere, but he could be more. The man says he serves them all day, all of the aging locals and truckers, the only two type of people you see in this type of town, and ones who never come back. He knows that they all act like their existences have meaning, they won't be forgotten the instant they die, but the man sees as Roger does, behind the curtain, and he wants to join him and do things the Psycho Pirate does that affects the whole universe. Psycho Pirate finds this a shame, since the man is posturing, thinking that he was born and raised, but none of them are, since the universe is mere months old and it was remade again. Roger yells at the man, saying that he is like the rest of the people and trapped in the pale gutters. The man doesn't understand, so Roger pulls down the facade of the page, trapping them in a solid white room as he tells the man that finally he gets to see behind the flimsy white fabric each universe is built on, and how they are built and destroyed and forgotten. The mask seals itself on the man's panicking face as Psycho Pirate says he feels how every action is worthless and how the Medusa mask amplifies the terror. The man begins suffocating as Roger continues berating him, asking if he knows that it's possible to be scared to death. The man dies from fright and the mask falls from his face as the voice says the pirate retrieved the mask, knowing that he is the man unmoored from the reincarnations of the universe and who remembers all previous iterations, be it a crisis, a flashpoint, or a death metal. The Psycho Pirate watches from the outside. Roger hears the narrator, demanding to know who is speaking as the voice says that he thought Roger didn't listen to his own questions, since he really thinks he's outside everything and that there is nothing beyond his enlightened perspective, but Darkseid is. Psycho Pirate is suddenly transported to Earth Omega, where he meets with Darkseid, asking how the being is outside of this all. Darkseid says that at the end of everything there is despair, and at the end of all things there is the anti-life equation, and of course there is Darkseid. He wonders if Psycho Pirate would like to be remade so he won't be alone and join the despair, and Psycho Pirate agrees, being transformed into something new as Director Bones smashes the tape player, saying how much he hates Psycho Pirate very much. He knows that's enough sharing his caring time, and it's time he went and got Cameron Chase, since the world won't save itself. Meanwhile, on the House of Heroes, Captain Carrot finds himself missing his world. Thinking after this business with Batman is over, he's going to go home and stay for a bit. He notices he's walked in on the room where Machine Head has taken off his helmet, apologizing, but Machine Head says sometimes he's got to let the man inside breathe and remind himself of why they keep the multiverse safe. Carrot says that the ship parts are all in Machine Head's lab as he puts his helmet back on again, having some thoughts on what brought Thomas Wayne to them. Captain Carrot asks if he's heard from President Superman, but Machine Head hasn't, worrying his investigation as taking him deep into unusual territory. Calvin and Thomas meanwhile arrive on Earth 23, where Thomas knows Calvin wasn't kidding when he said he was president. He wonders how he's gone from being the last son of Krypton to the commander-in-chief, but Calvin says it's a long story, which Thomas knows it always is. Courtney comes to see Calvin, telling him that he's been gone for almost 24 hours and they were concerned, but they kept the world running without him or Superman. Calvin is grateful as the woman asks who his guest is, but Thomas will only tell her that his name is Thomas. Calvin asks her to buy him one more day, but the woman says that members of Congress want him to talk about the Multiverse Awareness Act, and the press are asking questions about multiversal attacks, and his mother and father are calling about the man from their field. Courtney takes her leave, and Thomas says that she has a thing for Calvin as he activates his home away from home protocol, revealing the Oval Office is just his fortress of solitude. Calvin tells Kellex to run a search for Lex Luthor, knowing they've clashed many times over the years, and he's a man who's let hate blind him. Calvin knows that he was developing a way to travel between worlds in the multiverse with a transmatter symphonic array, but he never finished it. Thomas notes how Calvin is spying on his own parents, impressed with it, but Calvin says it was their idea and it helps them think that they are keeping an eye on him. Kellex says that based on past movements, there are 117 possible locations for Lex Luthor and he can narrow it down, but Calvin does the math himself in his head, narrowing it down to 10 locations and then only one location. Calvin knows that Lex will know he's coming for him and Thomas knows they're walking into a trap, so it's good they brought their real suits with them. Changing and heading into Lex's desert base, Batman and Superman battle through his defenses, with Thomas asking if he's Superman and President, where is Calvin Ellis the man in all of this, and where is his family? But the hero asks Thomas the same question, since he hasn't spoken about his family since he crashed in the shuttle. Superman says that he can still take him home to Earth Zero and back to his son, but Thomas knows his family was taken away from him in his reality a long time ago. He remembers getting a glimpse of his family, but instead he ruined it, and he hurt his son in ways he cannot forgive himself for, and he doesn't want to see the damage he left behind. Soon they come across lead doors, which Superman easily rips away, finding Luthor's inner sanctum, hoping the villain won't make their questioning difficult. Batman notes that he is certainly obsessed with the multiverse as they find that Lex has been killed. Batman knows that this was recent as Calvin closes Lex's eyes, knowing that they could never have been friends, but he always wished that he would use his mind for something better. Batman discovers Earth 23's Lex was the one who designed the shuttles, and someone killed him for it. On Earth Zero, Cameron Chase tells Bones that this wasn't the deal, and she said that she would help investigate the truth about the changes in their reality. Bones says that that's what they are doing, and she saw how dangerous the multiverse is firsthand, and she's lucky Extract saved her from the fake Captain Atom exploding. Chase knows that Atom before blowing up said that Darkseid is, something Bones already knows about, asking if she trusts Atom or him. The two visit the captured Green Lantern and Obsidian, who demand to know where Jade is, as the rest of the JSA will come looking for them, and when he's freed, they'll drown him in darkness. Alan says that his son is right and they can avoid a lot of trouble if they just release them and tell them where his daughter is. Extract says that she's sort of lost since she resisted and paid the price. The woman orders the heroes loaded onto their arc carrier since they are leaving in 90 seconds. Chase asks where Bones found Extract since she doesn't like her. Bones says that Extract understands what it's like when their whole world is ripped away from them. He asks if there's been any word from Hammond's ship, but Extract says that Hammond's ship should be at the location already, and she will follow up his frequency and they will find him and what he's been up to, with the last word being that he got his hands on Roy Harper. Chase knows that Harper is dead, but Bones knows this is another reason Extract needs to hurry, but he won't say where they are going, saying that it's classified. Chase knows that this means deep dark garbage, but Bones hopes she understands, showing her holograms of the various versions of heroes and threats their reality has been under attack from, knowing often it's people from their world, but the most dangerous threats have been from outside and they cannot take another space-time event, and the heroes are doing nothing to prevent them, so he bit the bullet and made a deal, one that will ensure that they are protected from the rest of the multiverse, and once they are done, they will be safe. Chase asks from what, so Bones wonders if she even saw what Captain Atom was capable of. Chase asks if he knew he wasn't from that world, but Bones feigns ignorance, telling her that they have work to do, and she needs to trust him since they don't want to be on the ship when it takes off. Chase shoots Bones in the leg, saying that they are all going, as Bones begins shifting back to his previous villainous costume and form, saying that she doesn't understand and this is the place of endings and she has doomed them all. The ship jumps away as on Hammond's ship, Infinity Inc. confront the zombified Roy, reminded to be careful since he's a Black Lantern. Power Girl tries to stop the zombie, but Roy slaps her away with a construct, allowing Jade to try and combat with her own constructs, wanting to see how he handles the Starheart. Roy begins fighting back, taking over his own mind again as Jade recognizes him as Roy Harper, stopping the other team members as she tries to reach through to him again, saying that they were on the Titans and Outsiders together. She knows he isn't trying to fight them, he's trying to fight the Ring. She says that Roy is inside and she heard what happened to him, thinking that he was dead. She hugs her friend as Roy returns to normal, knowing that the Ring had other ideas for him, saying that every time he uses it, he turns into that zombie. Damage asks why he doesn't just take it off, and Roy thinks that that might be the only thing keeping him alive, and it showed him that his daughter was still alive and he needs to figure out where she is. He asks the team how they got into the bleed, learning that when Jade came back, the JSA was already scattered and they were trying to rebuild what they lost, so she wanted to plan a meeting to check each other's notes and just spend time together. When the group got together though, they were attacked by Extract, whose weapons teleported them away. In the chaos and confusion, Jade was hit by one of these beams, and it triggered something in the Star Heart, which teleported her inside the bleed near one of the ships. Jade knows that they were trying to kidnap people from their world. Power Girl says that Jade helped them escape Hammond, but they have been lost in the bleed ever since. That is until Roy and the ship showed up. Jade says that Hammond isn't working alone, since the multiverse was just restored and not everyone has all their memories back, and someone is taking advantage of that. She finds the ship is getting a signal from another ship, which delivers them a frequency to go to a secret location. Roy wonders what they do now, so Jade says that if these people want him and them, they're going to get them. She activates the ship, jumping them to Earth Omega. Looking over the world, Jade doesn't know what this is, but knows it's related to her father's work on the totality. Roy knows that the ring showed him this place as well as Darkseid, surprising Atom Smasher, who wishes he had warned them earlier. Atom Smasher soon points at something as the team see Anti-Monitor's shadow demons all over the Earth. Flash meanwhile continues running on the device as Psycho Pirate demands he keep running. Atom Smasher knows this was a mistake coming here, wanting to go back to Earth Zero and get the Justice League, the Titans, and the rest of the JSA. Jade thinks he makes a good point when Roy's ring explodes with power as another ship smashes into them. The ship belonged to Extract and Bones, as Extract knows their frequencies collided, wanting to prepare for a rough landing as both ships smash into the Earth below. A Mayday call is sent out and Harbinger at the Hall of Heroes gets it, but silences it as Superman and Batman return. Calvin knows that this all started with Thomas, but Thomas knows he's nobody. Calvin says he's the remnant of a broken reality, and more than that, he's the father of a great hero, and maybe they have been looking at this all wrong, and they should be looking at him. They ask Machine Head if there is any word from the Flash, but they know he's nowhere to be seen. But the hero has almost rebuilt the shuttle, and with the specs that they sent from Lex Luthor's lab, they'll be able to finish it in no time, and they should have an idea on what it was and where it came from. Machine Head knows that Calvin's Lex did design the shuttle and the metal comes from his Earth, but Calvin knows Lex tried this before and failed, so someone outside of Earth 23 is helping him. Calvin asks Harbinger to show him any signs of multiversal travel since the multiverse was restored, but she denies his request, surprising him as Machine Head finds that quite unusual as well. Calvin and Calyx begin hacking into the system to try and get around Harbinger as he finds a message from Barry Allen of Earth Zero. Thomas meanwhile uses a computer terminal to show him Bruce Wayne, showing him various versions of his son from across the multiverse. As Calvin learns from Barry's message, Justice Incarnate are to call an emergency meeting, wanting them to know that death follows them again. Thomas can see he didn't beat his son and he came back stronger with his family. Justice Incarnate soon arrive and Superman wants to call in the reserves along with all of Earth Zero's Justice League. Thomas says that he tried to tell his son not to be Batman like a foolish and scared old man, and that was wrong of him since he's always Batman. Calvin says that they are going to Earth Omega as suddenly Thomas is blasted by Machine Head, who turns on his friends, saying that he's not sorry for this. He gets Harbinger to open the doors so they can welcome in their new guests. Captain Carrot asks why, so Machine Head removes his helmet, saying years ago Earth 8, his world, was invaded by an alternate reality of theirs, and they tried to fight their war in secret, but they lost, and for years he questioned how, and all the signs pointed to Earth Zero. He says that he doesn't want to destroy the multiverse, he just wants to keep it separate so that there are no more crossovers between worlds, and ironically, he wasn't the only one in the multiverse that wanted that. His team begin teleporting in as he knows that there were lots of people who feel the same way, and so they came together knowing that there must be a sacrifice to correct a great injustice. The Injustice Incarnate make their presence known, joining their leader to face against Justice Incarnate. Psycho Pirate meanwhile speaks with the people who have lost their worlds, saying the multiverse is real and all of them know that, yet when people on Earth Zero found out, they went nuts and he was locked up in Arkham instead of being helped. He knows they hid the truth as he knows his world was the original Earth 2, the one before the big crisis, but when the multiverse was recreated, his Earth 2 no longer existed and was replaced, wondering if they know how that made him feel. He knows others don't want what happened to him happening to their, but other people have seen it happen happen again and again, and every time there is a crisis, someone gets hurt and worlds get hurt. But then the heroes of Earth-Zero celebrate because of the restart. They don't remember what was missing. He knows it will happen again, but Darkseid has offered them a deal. If they follow some instructions, he guarantees their worlds will be protected from Earth-Zero, and in return, one day Darkseid will call on them to pay him back, and back Psycho Pirate up. And when he calls, they better come running. Psycho Pirate hopes that they won't actually need to do that, as on Earth Omega, Chase survives the two ships colliding, climbing from the wreckage as she is confronted by Bones, who is reverted back to his villainous self, screaming that she messed up all his plans to save them and Earth-Zero. Chase asks what he did, so he reveals that he took Darkseid's deal and he gave him sacrifices, and in return, Darkseid will keep Earth-Zero safe from the coming crisis. He reveals that there are some people from different worlds who have multiversal energy in them, and when the multiverse gets put back together, some retain that energy, and that's what Darkseid wants. Green Lantern attacks, demanding to know where Jade is, but Bones says he doesn't know since she wasn't supposed to be kidnapped. Obsidian asks why they were targeting the JSA, so Bones says that like him, they didn't start on Earth-Zero, and they are from the original Earth-2 as well, before being forgotten about. Alan knows he picked the wrong family to erase, as Bones reminds him of his cyanide touch. Jade appears, smashing the villain down with a construct, asking if he remembered the Star Heart. Jade reunites with her family, asking why they are there, so Alan says they came looking for her, but she says that's cute since they thought that she needed saving. Atom Smasher and the other Infinity Inc. members meet with Alan, who is glad to see them, wanting to get back home to Earth-Zero to spend time with his kids, as Extract appears, knowing the only thing that allows them to go to and from Earth Omega was the ships, and Flash, and there aren't any Flashes around. Wildcat, however, spots Flash on the giant running machine, as Roy Harper also arrives, calling out for his daughter as Chase asks why he isn't dead. Roy says the ring is keeping him alive, and it showed him that his daughter is alive and on that planet. Extract isn't happy to see Roy, but Chase tells her to shut up, wanting to know who she is. Extract reveals that she is the Cameron Chase from the original Earth-2, and she was erased from existence, but when the multiverse came back, so did she, and she found Bones and he put her to work. Green Lantern wants to know what they are doing to Flash, so Psycho Pirate says that they are making him run since he was the first person to ever travel from Earth to Earth, and before that, travel wasn't easy, but once Barry made the jump, he weakened the barriers between worlds, and now once Barry cracks their multiverse, Darkseid will finally have access to what rests beyond and use that power to control all of the worlds in the multiverse. Power Girl recognizes Psycho Pirate, remembering how Black Adam smashed his face in, asking if he's ready to feel that pain again. Psycho Pirate asks if they really thought he didn't come without backup, introducing Injustice Incarnate, who arrived through a portal with the imprisoned Justice Incarnate. The JSA attack, with Power Girl going after Psycho Pirate. The villain says that he missed Kara as the two teams viciously fight one another. Psycho Pirate demands they not be allowed to interfere with Flash since he's getting close to finishing. Barry meanwhile sees all his friends shouting at him to keep going and save the multiverse. He knows as long as his family's beside him, he's fast enough. The battle continues as Superwoman beats down Wildcat, knowing they didn't have one of her on her world. President Superman smashes out of his chains, rushing to save Barry, but Machine Head stops him, telling Calvin he did what Calvin couldn't, since he wanted unity and for all the multiverse to be one big family. But Psycho Pirate is right, and every time something bad happens, it's because of Earth-Zero, because they are special, or because they are a forever ticking time bomb. Machine Head asks if he knows what Flash did, starting the hero going back in time to save his mother from being murdered, and in turn creating a new reality. Calvin knows all about that, but Machine Head rips open his chest armor, saying that those cracks don't stop at Earth-Zero and it splintered the entire multiverse. The villain unleashes some kryptonite on Calvin, saying that the changes made his world darker and harder. Machine Head confirms that he killed Calvin's Lex since he got scared and began asking questions, but he did tell him Superman's weakness. The villain points out Flashpoint Batman, knowing that he's a remnant of a dead world, and he wanted to torture that Flashpoint world, but it's gone now, so he'll have to take his revenge out on Thomas. Machine Head apologizes since they should have done this together, as Psycho Pirate restrains Power Girl, knowing saying it was working and all of the heroes are imprisoned except for Roy and Jade, who continue fighting on, learning his chains are coming from Earth Omega. Psycho Pirate says that all of their connections to the multiverse power Earth Omega, and it's a prison world and the chains that bind it grow. He knows that there will be no more multiverse travel or connections between worlds, and Darkseid has the power he needs to control it all. Roy asks what will happen to the multiverse, and Jade says it is always meant to be in motion. Slowing everything down will allow entropy to creep in and kill it all. Jade is chained up, leaving Roy alone to confront Psycho Pirate, who says that his ring is the final piece. Roy knows the ring isn't from Earth Zero, and the villain says it's something else in disguise, something older and darker. He knows that when the multiverse was restored, it unlocked things long since hidden, and when the Batman Who Laughed transformed the world in his own image, the Earth Zero Batman used a black ring to resurrect the dead, including Roy. The hero knows that that's why he's alive, but Pirate knows that it's more than that, since he was chosen thanks to his history of darkness, and he knows pain and isolation, making him the perfect bullseye for it to target. And when the multiverse was remade, the ring searched for someone, just like how Hal Jordan's ring searched for someone with great willpower. The ring found Roy and his despair, making him its avatar. And now he just needs to let himself go. Roy knows that it's some great weapon, so he can use it to save everyone, and Psycho Pirate knows he can, but he knows what will happen if he does, mockingly saying that Roy will turn into a zombie and turn into a mindless monster, but it will take away his pain and suffering, and it will erase all he once knew. Psycho Pirate offers him the same deal that he offered the others, and that they will save Earth 2 and leave it alone, and Leanne will be safe. Roy realizes his daughter isn't actually on the planet, and it means she's back home and is safe. He powers up the ring, saying that he's got more than enough suffering to power it. The constructs of Roy free the other heroes as Roy turns into a zombie, telling the other heroes he has faith in them all and they need to save his daughter and save the multiverse. He says goodbye as Psycho Pirate hopes that he realizes what he just did. The heroes confront Psycho Pirate, but they hear Darkseid's voice that tells them that it's too late and any battle now will only feed his power. Darkseid arrives through a portal, telling the heroes the multiverse barriers have been created and all its citizens will kneel to him, and with his Omega Lantern at his side, he will control it all. Barry Allen begins to do the two things he does best: running and trying to save the multiverse, as outside his Speed Force cage, the heroes of the multiverse battle Darkseid's minions, while the god himself does his usual villainous monologue about wanting to crack through their multiverse and into the Omniverse, using the Omega Lantern as a key thanks to controlling his power, and with it he'll control the power from beyond the veil. Jade and Obsidian take offense with this, but the zombified Roy is sent after them, and thanks to Obsidian's history with darkness and how he overcame his own darkness, the hero was able to break Roy free from the ring's hold. The multiverse's finest, President Superman and Flashpoint Batman, meanwhile battle Machine Head, who reveals his puffy monster face as he seeks revenge on the Flashpoint universe by wanting to kill Flashpoint Batman. Thomas Wayne, however, won't go down without a fight, as the Dark Knight is held by Superman, who knocks the Machine Head out once he removes his helmet with one mighty punch, before racing faster than a speeding bullet at the device trapping Flash, obliterating it in an extraordinary flash of light. In the aftermath, the heroes find that the Flash is missing, and the villains and people like Mr. Bones have been changed back to normal, including Roy Harper, but Darkseid offers one final ominous warning, since what they have done has prevented him from accessing the Omniverse. Psycho Pirate quickly rushes off to appear in another DC book elsewhere, as Machine Head tries to demand Darkseid continue the plan, and he can still go ahead with it. The villain learns the hard way that you don't speak back to Darkseid, as the villain obliterates him with the Omega Beams before turning the beams on everyone else, but instead of killing the heroes, he teleports them all the way back to their respective worlds, with the Justice Incarnate taken back to the House of Heroes, where Calvin knows that they were given a head start and they need to quickly find the Flash and crack into the Omniverse before Darkseid can. Days later on Earth Zero, people are growing accustomed to being part of something larger than them, even trying out some beer which is rumoured to be brewed within the multiverse, making Cameron Chase tell Roy Harper that they are actively investigating that now that she owns the DEO outright. Thanks to this, she's able to find out that Darkseid and Psycho Pirate didn't succeed in whatever they were planning with the Omniverse, and Mr. Bones has rattled his way into the wind, with Chase not knowing where he is going to turn up next. Roy is intrigued to know how Bones even got the woman on board, and it's revealed that Chase saw a video of her different versions of herself from the multiverse, and it made her question which one was the better version of her out there and which one was the bad version. But thanks to the recent events, she knows she's the great version of herself. Roy meanwhile has decided it's time to get back to living, since now he has a new lease on life, and he heads to the Titans Academy to reunite with some old friends. On the hidden Earth Omega though, Darkseid continues his scheming, with Extract now helping him as his right-hand woman, along with his now united family. They aren't the only ones who have awakened to the power now in the multiverse, as the Empty Hand, the Upside Down Man, Eclipso, and Necron are all ready to vie for the power Darkseid wants. Darkseid knows that Earth Omega was never actually a world, it was a piece of a resting enemy that now awakens, and while he isn't the only one who seeks power, he is the only one who will control the great darkness. Lost in the Speed Force, the Flash continues running, suddenly realizing Psycho Pirate trapped him there and he needs to warn the Justice League and Justice Incarnate on what is happening, but he suddenly blows out of the Speed Force, landing on the original Earth 2, the world that was killed in the Crisis of Infinite Earths, where a voice welcomes him to Multiverse 2. The voice says he was made to watch as each world was swallowed and erased by darkness, as the voice is revealed to belong to Prior, who wonders if the hero knows what it's like to not have anyone heed his words and also watch as worlds are destroyed one after the other. He knows that there is another way as he touches Flash, knowing that they need to move on and let the real multiverse live. Flash relives his death from Crisis of Infinite Earths as he is sent to Earth Flash 1, where he is left to live out a happy life with his extended family as Prior watches over the Flash's world.